Hello folks, and welcome to a special edition of the Counting Sheep podcast. My name is Ruth, and this is a demo that I have filmed showing how I sew the zipper into my Kira quarter zip, which I have on right now. So I'm just going to stand up a wee bit here just to show you my Kira quarter zip. As you can see, it fits very well. This is the zipper that I just did a demo on this channel right here. This is the video. So if you're not interested in that kind of content, I encourage you to kind of look at my other stuff for more crochet and knitting content. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below in the video. Just let me know. Once again, this is a way that I sew my zippers in. I don't use a sewing machine. I hand sew them in. So that may not be everybody's jam, but I find that I have more control, and I actually enjoy the slow stitching of hand stitching. So without further ado, I think I show this on the blocking board first, and then I go into all of the mechanics of sewing in the zipper. So I hope you enjoy, and like I said, let me know. All right, we'll see you again on the next episode. So here is my Kira quarter zip sweater on the blocking board. I just wanted to kind of show you some of the supplies that I use to sew a zipper in, and also how I block so that you have the best success at sewing the zipper in. So I'm just gonna zoom in here, and you can see that I haven't really aggressively blocked this sweater. I don't usually aggressively block a sweater unless I'm trying to achieve some measurement. This sweater is fine as is. So I don't need to like stretch any part of it. However, for this neckline, I do want it as straight as it can be so that it makes it easier to sew the zipper in. So as you can see, I did a few pins here around the neck. And then this is the front opening. And I put straight pins in there and got it as straight as I could. Before I pinned it, it was pretty wavy. So I just wanted to show that portion of sewing in a zipper. And then some of the supplies are over here. Of course, you'll need the zippers, of course. I have two different kinds of thread, matching thread. I just took this out of my stash of thread. It's the closest color to the green. And then I also have some plain thread, like a neutral color, just for basting. I like to baste, and I'll show you why later. I also have a tape measure to make sure that the measurements are good on the zipper and the opening. And then scissors, and of course sewing needles. This is what I have left over of the yarn from the project. And then also up here I have a piece of cardboard, and this is going to help when we're pinning the zipper. And what I don't have here, another supply, is what I just mentioned, some pins so we can pin the zipper in. All right, so I'm going to take this off the blocking board now, and we're going to get started with the rest of the demo. Okay, so here is the Kira quarter zip on some blocking boards I have here on a table. I have my two zippers, and the first thing that Courtney tells you to do in the pattern is, actually I've chosen my zipper. I think I'm going to go with this one, so I'm going to set this one aside. What she tells you to do, so this is the public side of the zipper with the tab out, is to turn these two tabs down like this and sew them. So just kind of bend them over so that they're kind of out of the way. All right, so I am going to do that now, and I will be back. Okay, so now you can see what I've done here. It's not all that neat, but it doesn't really matter because it'll be on the inside of the garment. So when it zippers up, it's just kind of flush against the top of the neck of the garment. All right, so now that we've prepped our zipper, okay, I have my sweater here, and this is right side facing up. As you can see, the patterns here. And one of the things that always kind of trips me up a little bit when I sew zippers in is that you can't see what's going on the right side. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to take a whole bunch of these locking stitch markers, and I'm going to, oops, there goes my thread. I am going to just kind of really like pin these two edges together along here so that they're touching. All right, they're touching, but they're not overlapping. So I put one down here, and I'm going to put one up here just to hold these two things together up here. And then I'm going to go down and go right along this opening with, so see what I'm doing here? I'm having them act like safety pins essentially, but they're smaller than safety pins so that it gives you a little bit more control when it comes to, you know, pinning things together. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make sure that the edges are touching but not overlapping. And I will show you this when it's all done. All right, so as you can see, I have a whole bunch of these, as they call them, hourglass stitch marking, but they're locking stitch marker pins to hold kind of that opening together. All right, so right side. Now I'm going to turn it to the wrong side. And once we get to the wrong side, you can see all those pins, but then you can also make sure they all lay down on the right side of the fabric so that you've got this nice closure here of this opening. All right, so you can just kind of doodle it with your hands here, get it all in place, just like that. Now this is the zipper I had prepped. So once again, this is a zipper that's not prepped, so you can see the tabs there. And then this is the one that I folded over so that this goes flush up against the neck line here. So this is, once again, the wrong side I have here. So this right side of the zipper will go face down. So we're gonna tuck that right up against this and just lay the middle of the zipper down the front of that opening. Now, I'm going to pin it next, but what I like to do is give myself a helping hand, and I put some cardboard in underneath, in between so the layers, so that it makes my pinning a little more easier. I can just stab and go. So once again, I'm going to double check, make sure that that opening, you know, that these edges are meeting but not overlapping. And then I'm going to place my zipper down, make sure it's centered over that slit. And I'm going to check this periodically as I go along. And now I'm going to take pins and I'm going to pin it. So I pin it down, make sure I hit that cardboard and then come up. And then I'm going to do the other side, pin it, and come up. Sometimes with crocheted fabric, it can be a little tough getting it all through, but you can persevere. All right, so then I'm going to double check, make sure these are closing. Lay my zipper down, and then pin again. All right, check again. Make sure these are all closed. Lay the zipper down and then pin. All right, and then check again. So every time you pin, you want to just double check. And you know, it's worth double checking. And then because I basted my zipper in, you can double check that way too if you like the way it looks on the front. You can turn it right side, you know, the right side out, and make sure the zipper is the way you want it before you actually sit down with your real thread and needle and sew it down. So I don't use a sewing machine on my sweaters to sew zippers in, just because it's I just don't trust the sewing machine. You know, the feed dog against knitted fabric sometimes can really pull on the fabric, and I just prefer to have the control of hand sewing, which I think you have a lot of control when you hand sew. It's slower, yes, but I feel like, you know, there's a handoff either way. You can either have quick and, you know, not so sure about things, which would be I speak for myself only. But this is the way I do it because I just don't want any disasters with the sewing machine. So here I am. I've got this all pinned in. So I'm going to take my sewing thread, just the basting thread, which is the white thread. I've knotted it already on one end, so I'm just going to thread my needle, and then I'm going to get going here, basting in. Basting serves a lot of purposes, one of which is to place the zipper, you know, in position, and have you eyeball it and see if you like it. Select the positioning. The other thing is, when you baste in, you can take these pins out, and then your actual sewing thread is not going to get caught in the pins. So that's another reason to do it. And it doesn't take all that long. You make big stitches. So I'm going to go down and up with a big stitch right down the side of the zipper here. See, it's already getting my basting thread's already getting caught up in the pin, which can drive you nuts if you're actually making the smaller stitches for sewing. So I'm going to take this basting thread and go down this side, across, and then up this side. And I will turn the camera back on when I'm done with that. Okay, so you can see now that I'm done with the basting. Got the basting thread in there. I put 3 stitches in one place up here at the end, and just left the thread because that'll make it easier to take out in the end. So now I'm ready to take my pins out. I'm going to take them out, and then I'm going to turn this right side out to make sure that I have what I like in terms of just where everything is placed. Sometimes it's trial and error, but hopefully if everything was pinned correctly, it won't be bad. All right, taking the cardboard out, and then taking the garment and turning it right side out. All right, so I'm going to take some of these pins out now, just to kind of get some of these stitch marker pins that I have in here, just to get a feel for how it looks. Whoops, I think I missed it. Oh, there we got caught on the basting thread. Yeah, so this is looking good. I think I'm happy with this. You'll see in a minute, let me get my hands out of the way, that it meets nicely. You've got that nice zipper underneath there. And take the rest of these out so that I can turn it around and sew the zipper in for sure with my regular thread. It pays to have these locking stitch markers in a good quantity for this particular task. These tend to be my favorite stitch markers anyway, just because for crochet you do need that locking stitch marker to mark things. So anyway, there's my last one. You can hardly see the basting thread right now. It's right in there though. And I'm happy. So now what I'm going to do is turn it around, and I'm going to show you I'm going to show you the stitch that I use to sew the garment in, or the zipper in. Okay, so as you can see, we're inside out again. And I've got my thread. This is a green sewing thread and my sewing needle. And so where we're going to start, here's my basting thread here, some ends that need to be woven in. Since I'm right-handed, I'm going to start on the right side here. And what I'm going to do is start on the zipper. So right here, I'm going to just come through my zipper. I have a knot on the end of my thread. And then what I'm going to do is make sure that the top of the crocheting kind of covers the end of the zipper here. So I'm going to take a bite from the crochet up here and then kind of come through the zipper. So the zipper is, been folded over there, so probably need a little bit of a push to get that in there, but you can persevere. Get yourself a nice sharp sewing needle. All right, I'm going to come again and get a little bit of the crochet and come through the zipper, the band of the zipper. This is just joining the top edge here. And I think one more right there and through. Now, Courtney tells you to sew about 2 millimeters from the teeth. Now, the teeth are like right here. And I've looked at her diagram, and I think that's really close to the edge. So I'm going to try to aim for going down the middle of the zipper here. And what I'm going to use is kind of like a combination running and back stitch. So I'll show you what that is. So running stitch is when you go in and out, similar to what I did with the basting. So you're just making big stitches, but when you're sewing something in, you obviously make smaller stitches because you want them to be strong. So what running stitch combined with back stitch is you do a couple of running stitches, and then you'll do a back stitch, and then a couple of running stitches, and then do a back stitch. So I'll demonstrate that here. So for this, I'm going to go, since this is a doubled over fabric, I'm just going to go down into the fabric and out. Whoops. And do similar to what I did with the basting. So I'm going to go a little further away down the zipper and come up. All right, and then one more down. And then instead of coming up ahead of the stitch, I'm going to do a back stitch. So what that means is I'm going to go back to my first stitch, the end of my first stitch, and come up, and then go down to the beginning of my second stitch. So what it is you're just kind of reinforcing. So then you're going to go back to the running stitch. So what I would do is I'd go ahead of the last stitch I made. It's hard to see with the small thread, and I'm also making sure that I've got things looking okay on this side as well. And keeping your stitches smaller than the basting, of course. So I'm going to come up and go down. And now, since I'm not doing a double fabric, I can actually do a running stitch like it's supposed to be done, where you're actually not going up and down, you know, taking the needle all the way through the thread. You can actually just kind of do it with your hands, rocking the fabric back and forth. All right, so one more running stitch. And then I'm going to go and do a back stitch. So here's where I came up. Back stitches, you go back and stick your needle into the ending of the last stitch, and then come up ahead of the stitch where the thread's coming out. So just like that. And that kind of locks things in. I'm going to go ahead and keep sewing, and I am going to turn the camera back on when I'm all done, and then also maybe I'll be able to draw this on paper so that you can understand the combo stitch. All right, so here's the zipper all sewn in. So this is the combo running stitch and back stitch. So I just thought I'd show you on paper what that looks like, because it's hard to see in the stitching. So see, your thread comes up here, and a running stitch, there's a space, and then you come up and go down, come up and go down. So there's a space in between each stitch. Then to add a back stitch, what you would do is you're coming up here, you would go back to this point and come up here. So you're kind of locking the stitches together. And then you could come up here and do another running stitch, running stitch, running stitch, and then come up here, go back, and then down, and then up again. So it's a little stronger than just doing a running stitch for the seam. So yeah, let me turn this right side out so you can see the finished effect. And there you have it. I'm very pleased with it. And I've had it on already, I've tried it on, and it's looking really good, fits really well. So yeah, that's my little demo on how I sew in a zipper. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. And maybe you can use some of the tips in your own sewing.